Welcome to Your Way Forward, a podcast where you can expect to find wisdom for uncertain times. Our podcast is hosted by me, Nicole Artabassi, along with my friends, spiritual teachers, and intuitive soul guides, Jenny Fairbank and Stephen Ross. Tune in each week as we unpack some of the hardest things that we're navigating in the world, from shared societal challenges to deeply personal life experiences. Our desire is that each soul who joins us experiences truth, love, and hope as they take their steps forward in life. Oh, and I should mention, we aren't just sharing our thoughts and opinions on here. Jenny and Stephen will be live channeling their spirit guides who will respond to your questions in our Ask the Guides minisodes. If you find our episodes helpful and worth sharing with a friend, feel free to spread the word. We're not here to gain a massive following, but rather to be a space for people to find guidance and light on their journey. Now, let's get into it. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to Your Way Forward. We're excited to dive in today. As always, I'm here, Nicole Artabassi. Hope you're doing well today on this Friday, is when we're recording. You're listening on a different day, I'm sure. For us, it is Friday. In Hawaii, we call this Aloha Friday or Pauhana when we finish working. Jenny, good to see you. Stephen, hello.
Yeah, good to be with you guys.
Yeah. Awesome. How's your week going, folks? Jenny, Stephen?
Great. Wonderful. It's powerful week. Very powerful week. Energetically.
I know we talk about finding hope through these times, but I've had some amazing readings for people and mediumship readings, and really showing them how to dream big and what blocks them. So I'm glad you brought forward this today. So yeah, I'm raring to go, my friend.
The topic. Awesome. Well, if any of you have not heard, Jenny mentioned a very powerful week. This is the start of the Lunar New Year, right, Jenny? And if you want to share a little piece about that, because I know me and my lovely wife and Stephen, I'm sure you've been feeling it up here in Haiku, Maui. We're experiencing a lot of just the thick energy. But tell our audience who may or may not know what that means. What's happening?
Yeah. So the Lunar New Year was on Tuesday. Yes.
Okay.
What was the date of that?
I think it was the 17th.
17th. Yeah.
16th or 17th. Yeah.
And that is, we just exited the year of the snake, the wooden snake, which, as we all know, snakes shed their skin, and we were all energetically shedding something, whether we were really consciously aware of it or not. Every single one of us had some kind of shedding, and it was quite powerful. I've had a very quite powerful day. I actually got very, very sick on that day. Had to cancel all of my clients in the afternoon. I couldn't function, quite literally. And I guess I was shedding something for sure, and we all were. And then, we stepped into the fire horse, which is very powerful, of course, and it is fast. And it can feel fast, and time itself is, in some capacity, speeding up. And, I feel that we always say this in our culture of, oh, time is so quick, and how can you believe it's already February and it's already March? But this is different than what we've been just parroting over decades. This is very different because there is actually a shift in frequency on this planet, and time is, as we know, it is an illusion, but there is some reality to it. We do experience the clock ticking and days moving and the sun going, the sun doesn't go down, we go down. The earth moves. And so there is a quickening of time. And this is a very important time for us to stay very grounded, consciously staying grounded and steady. And the horse can be steady and in a really good rhythm. And we can do that within ourselves. And it's vital that we do have awareness around this and that we stay steady in our path and our course and our groundedness and make conscious choices moving forward to manifest and create what it is we really want in this life, despite what is going on in the external chaotic world.
I
I love
love
that,
that.
Jenny. We could bring forward the word acceleration and think
Mhm.
like one of those, those images where you see the flower bloom or the cactus open and they speed up the frames and it comes faster. That's
Mhm.
what I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm not don't have knowledge of astrology like you do, Jenny, but the way I perceive this is in a way things are accelerating or quickening, like a flower blossoms or opens or a thorn comes out. So issues that are thorny come to light faster. Things that could blossom, your dreams, your hopes could
Mhm.
open faster. And so
Yes.
that's really cool.
Well, and that just brings us to our topic. Today we're talking about dreams being fulfilled. And, I think that's so on point. And, for anyone listening, we are not, we don't sit around a big round table and discuss, 10 different topics on a whiteboard and determine which topic we should talk about or sit in a circle and meditate until it pops up. I mean, it's sometimes as simple as, one of us is taking a shower and something hits us in our spirit and we're
Mm.
like, this is on point, or we talk to enough people that something's arising. So just to demystify how we come up with some of these topics, I think it's very relevant right now to what's going on. And I didn't know a lot of that, just like you, Steve, and I don't know a ton about astrology and the different New Years, but I know I've been feeling it and we're experiencing that. And I think the only thing I'll add to what you're sharing, Jenny, and maybe for the audience who's like me and doesn't know a ton about it, when you think about time, we know there's 60 seconds in a minute. We know there's 24 hours in a day. We know there's so much daylight. And I think that's the way we perceive time here. But I think what you're talking about is a little bit deeper. And you're talking about, as you said, Stephen, the acceleration, the quickening, and maybe time, if we could look at this, and I'm just on the cuff here saying it's really just changes, things that change and morph and transition, right? That's what we're experiencing, right? And so maybe the time, the quickening is something that's like there is a acceleration of events or situations that are shifting, right? Would that be a good way to explain it?
Yes, I can, that definitely is relevant. And it is, well, what is happening now so much, as we all know, changes are moving. They're rapid. And as a lot of astrologers are talking about over and over again at this period of our time, is that truth is coming to light. There's no more
Well,
hiding.
we're seeing that, aren't we? A lot of
Quite
places. Yep.
quite literally. And they have
Yeah.
been talking about this, and I'm no expert on astrology, let's be clear. No expert. I know very, very little, but I'm very interested and I like to listen to astrologers. And they have been talking a lot about this truth coming to light and
Mhm.
that the systems are crumbling. And through both Stephen and I's channeling and mediumship, it comes up for us a lot. I
Mhm.
I know it from the feedback I receive from people because I get into my trance, but I am very aware that this is all changing. Our world is changing in a very rapid way.
Mhm.
And that comes to, again, to the point of the need for steadiness and grounding, that
Right.
we are anchored in our light, in our
Mhm.
truth, and that we do not allow the chaos to just disrupt our whole world necessarily. We do have
Right.
choice in that.
Right, right,
Yeah, and
right.
it's an important point because we live in an age of energy and transformation, but we also live in what we call duality. So there's two, dark, light, thorns, roses. And so because of this energy that's pouring through, it's accelerating both extremes, which we're clearly
Mm.
living through, I would say. It's not too controversial to say that, but we're living through both extremes. They keep magnifying. But we have
Mhm.
to remember more than anything else is that our ego, our personal mind, wants to taste sweet and avoid bitter. And this is a nightmare because it'll bypass the unpleasant, it'll project and blame, but actually we're missing the learning. So the
Mm.
suffering in this that people experience and we honor that pain, we can turn it into something. And I see from
Mhm.
all my sessions that it's kind of composting. We can
Okay.
turn this stuff
Yeah.
over, put it down on the
Yep.
ground, turn it over, you got fresh soil, build something new. And that's a pattern I see again and again.
Fantastic analogy.
That's another really important point, is to focus on the new, to focus
Mhm.
on what we want to create and not what we don't like.
Mhm.
Not what we don't
Yes.
want, but what put your attention in the place of building and creating, which
Oh, Jenny.
I feel like we all are
Yes.
doing.
Yes. Yes. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you this week, and I'm going to tell on myself here. Um, I think I've mentioned here before, I have a company. My wife and I own a company called Point Break Growth Partners. Feel free to check us out. We help people find clients and grow their companies. And we really believe in helping the small guys out there and giving them resources from our many, many years of experience. Um, Mini plug, but nonetheless, I have still a lot of doubt. I've only had the company for a little bit less than a year now, and it's going well, and we're building revenue, and we're having really happy clients, having success. And I still speak so much negativity over it. And it's my doubting myself, and Jenny and Stephen know, Jenny more than anybody, like, knows how much I doubt myself. And I focus on the negative of my productivity. I focus on the negative of what I didn't do, or my website needs this or that. And, it's just, my wife has been telling me all week long, she was like, can you just please reframe this every time you start to say something? And she's sending me memes, and she's sending me little, lines. I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. I need to start reframing. But, to your point, yes, there is a way to reframe, because that's not how we have fulfilled dreams. It's focusing on all of our quote unquote failures, maybe not our strengths. And so, this brings up a point for today. Stephen, did you have something you wanted to share before I dive
No,
into the
no,
topic?
go
Okay.
for it.
Um, One of the things that I've just been coming upon a lot of different people is we're talking about your dreams, people's dreams. And we don't mean going to sleep, which that's a whole nother conversation. It could be a lot of parallels there too, but not dreams that you have while you're asleep. But these are dreams, visions, desires you have for your life. And I am a dreamer through and through, so I know this one well. And I think, there's really a lot of, I think, curiosity around this topic, because, especially as you age, if people start looking back at their life like, oh, I didn't fulfill my dream. I didn't get there. I had all these things when I was young, and now I just live in this mediocre, default life because you name it. My income, I had children, an unexpected surprise, a elderly parent who needs my care. There's many different reasons in life that dreams go unfulfilled. And I'm no expert on this, but I think I do desire today in this episode for us to dig in into a deeper spiritual way, right? To kind of understand, like, what are the things that are blocking us from really getting to that place that we've wanted to be? Or is that even possible? And so, there's another type of person. I mean, I think some people, surprisingly, I have a friend who I talked about, like, what do you dream about? I love asking people. That's one of my first questions. Like, so what are your dreams in life? And they're just like, oh my God, this is that kind of girl, right? But I can't help it. So, I had someone tell me, they said, I don't know, like, I don't really dream. And I just sat there looking at this person like you have flesh, you drink water, just like me. How is it that you're not dreaming? And so I've thought a lot about that. Like, is it that they're just locked up? And I hate to use that word, but sometimes, fear can hold people back from even allowing themselves to dream, or disappointments that they've had in their lives. Like, I've had plenty of disappointments, so I've had my own fear of dreaming certain things. Um, and so they just stay in this place of just surface level, everything that's right in front of me, and don't even let myself get to that point, because if I did and it fails, or I hate to use the word fail, and it doesn't come to fruition, I can't take that heartbreak, right? So there's that's, I don't want to even say that type of person. I would say that there's that season that sometimes people go through, right? On the spiral we talk about a lot, right, Stephen? And like, maybe that's where they are in their journey. And then you have other people that says, like, I have this dream, and they hold it so tightly. And, I've been in corporate, and I see men building businesses and building this and that, not just men, women too, but like, I just see the climb and the push, force to do what I want it to make it happen. And culture teaches us, push harder, just push harder, no excuses, all this stuff. And I've lived under a lot of that before. And guess what? For me, that's not what brought my dream into reality.
Mhm.
So I guess a couple questions, to kind of kick this off. Maybe I'd love Stephen and Jenny independently, or however, whoever feels, like they have something here on, what does it mean? What is this dream, this desire? Why do we have this? Like, let's just unpack that for a minute. Like, what does that even mean, right? A desire down the future. We don't want a future trip, as we say in AA, but at the same time, like, what does this mean, and why do we have this as a species, as a soul?
So much
Big
to say
question.
there.
That's
Big
50
question.
points. Yeah, I
Oh
think
my
to
goodness.
unpack. I
Go
want to
ahead.
say this as a dad, if I can just jump in from think of the child and the innocent child for a moment. I would say the first place to start is with a kid. If you can think of that as a soul coming and growing like a seed has potentials in it. A seed of a rose plant or an oak tree, they're different seeds. So the first thing
Right.
is, I would say you have pre-packaged potential that you come in with,
Mm, I love
and
that.
and you
Wow. I
plant
can
that
see it.
seed. Yeah, you plant the seed, and that potential sprouts, and then the tree will meet and shade and bear fruit in those ways. And so that's the first thing I would say when it comes to dreams. We come pre-packaged with things. You could say
Mhm.
gifts that allow people then, but the fruit of the gift, the fruit of the labor, you got to action it and do it. But that's a place to start. And Jenny, I know what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely in what you're saying, and I'll put it in the words that I use in that, which is, we have a soul plan, right? We have a soul purpose here, and we have lessons that we decide we come to learn and experience, and we have a purpose in the collective to serve the world in a certain way.
Okay.
And we always have, of course,
Sorry,
that.
Jay, can I ask a question? Do you feel
Of
like we
course.
all have that? We all have that purpose for the
Yes.
collective? Okay.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
wanted to highlight that.
It depends because small things are big things.
Yes.
Okay.
You might have a purpose where you just enjoy people or gardening, or it doesn't have to be big. Big is small is big now.
Right, right,
In
right.
that way,
Okay. I
yeah.
just wanted to highlight that we
Mhm.
all aren't just these independent little creatures, right? Jenny, like this, we're part of the collective too. So keep
We
going. Sorry to interrupt
we
you.
are all one. There's nothing outside of the oneness, and we each play a part. I love the idea of the tapestry of the threads, and if the universe as this threaded tapestry, and each thread is important to the whole, and it creates the
Mm-hmm.
whole. And so our thread, our individual thread, is very vital. And when we all have these dreams naturally. We really all do. And whether people are willing, ready to tap into that dream, or allow themselves to imagine the dream or feel the dream, deep down, I really truly believe that every single soul has something that they
Mm-hmm.
really dream about, but they might not allow
Mm-hmm.
themselves to.
I do too. Mm-hmm.
Because of fear. Fear blocks
Right.
us. It just stops us in our tracks. And we might not even want to say that we have fear, but we all do in some way. And it might show up as discomfort. It might show up as frustration. It might show up as unworthiness. That's a really big one. And as humanity, a lot of humans don't feel worthy. I'm not worthy of receiving my dream. A lot of people fear success. And so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's doing your inner work to remove those fears, to allow yourself to feel the dream, imagine the dream even a little bit. What would you want if you could have anything at all? I love the idea of like, okay, if you could wave a magic wand and get exactly what you want in this life, what would it look like? Without any guardrails, without any obstacles in the way. And it's amazing what will come through when you allow yourself to imagine, because imagination is part of our soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, this
So,
is the whole culture of manifestations and affirmations. And, I mean, it goes to a whole other level sometimes that, someone else is married and you're looking at their spouse and you're like, I envision that person will be my spouse. Like, you want to be careful with like, what are you actually imagining and affirming? But I think, there is something to it. I mean, Karen and I have experienced what it means I personally have experienced holding my dream. As we were saying before the call, I was telling Jenny, I started crying during our pre-plan here, just talking about this topic because it's like a little egg. I've been out here on this property doing all sorts of things and kind of farm life. And so, you got to be careful with these eggs you pull from the hens. And, you can look at a dream like an egg. And for many, many years, like I've carried my little egg. And I've carried it by myself a lot, right? And I've met people and thought, oh, maybe you'll be my partner and help me carry it and care for it. And, of course, now I have met my life partner, maybe it's mini life partner, and she's now helping me carry this egg, and it's now our egg, right? And But I think, timing, back to the timing thing, it's really interesting how timing plays a part in this. And, people get very discouraged. People get very disappointed when it doesn't happen by a certain time. And I want to bring up, and I'm going to ask some hard questions today, and I hope that's okay. I think it is. We love those hard questions. These are real life questions, not big, you know, big
Yep.
cosmic things that we can just say. These are actually real life problems or situations rather. What about for someone, there's a lot of situations that come to mind. What about someone who is single? I'm going to use a female, a single female who's mid 40s, maybe 50, and her entire dream was to bear a child, have a family, and she's now at the age that the body may or may not be able to produce a baby. And if you ask them, that's your only dream, and it doesn't happen at this point, what does that mean? What does that take it however you want, but like, what do you do with that? If that's been the dream and now it doesn't feel possible. Any thoughts there?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Jenny, you go.
Yeah? Okay. Well, here's the thing. It's very difficult because when someone, painting this picture of this person you're speaking of, Nikki, isn't getting what they think they want, and I'm saying what they think they want, there's something they want, but is it what they need? There's a difference between want and need. And their soul, if they have not bared a child and they really want one in this life, perhaps they're not in alignment with their soul's mission, their soul's purpose.
Oh, okay. Say
Because
more.
their
This is
ego
juicy.
is saying, their attachment to this human life and this, in maybe everybody else has a child, I want a child, I want to have that experience. Perhaps they came here for something very different, but they haven't been aligned with their soul enough to be on the track of knowing what that is or understanding their greater purpose here. And so they're so focused on getting this thing that they think they want, and they want it. The human part of them wants it.
Yeah.
And I understand that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's not happening, perhaps it would be a good idea to stop and sit back and say, why is this not happening? I wonder why God, universe, source, creator, isn't allowing this to happen in my life. There's a deeper reason. So it's really about going into yourself and questioning, not in the revolt stage, but in the quest, as we say in our lineage, of like,
Yeah.
what if I'm in the quest, it's trying to understand what it is that I'm here to learn and grow, how I'm supposed to grow, and what I'm here to experience. And perhaps motherhood isn't what I'm supposed to experience in this life. And can I surrender and trust, my two favorite words these days? Can I surrender to that divine flow, that the divine knows more than I do, even about myself and my mission and my purpose here? And let go of the struggle, the push that I'm trying to make something happen that isn't happening. And all I'm doing in that is suffering because I'm not
Right.
getting what I want. And this is the ego part of us. We all
So-
have it in different ways.
So is it safe to say that it's being able to dream without attachment?
Oh, yes, that's ideal. And I love the statement I say all the time to myself too, like this or something greater. This is what I would love
Right.
to experience, Divine Mother. However, I trust and I surrender, and it's this maybe, or it's something greater. What if it's some completely different? And if you drop the push and the force of wanting it to look a certain way, you open the door and the floodgates to something more beautiful and expansive.
I
Just
love that. Oh my gosh, that is a reframe that I think I even needed to hear yet again, like releasing. Stephen, I would love, you are a dreamer of all dreamers. You have dreams. I would just love to hear, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's hard because I've worked with so many women who've gone through what you've said.
And P.S., this is just an example. It's also not my life. I do not want to bear children. For anybody listening, this is just a topic that has come up with multiple people I
yeah,
know. So
yeah.
sorry, Stephen, go ahead.
When people have a vision of something, I'll speak generally at first, maybe I can get it back, but when people have a vision of something, I'm going to keep using gardening images today, I think, but it's like a seed sprouts and they develop something. And so they become attached to the picture in their mind of what this tree will grow into. You
Mm-hmm.
see, this is a birthing metaphor, actually, because you parent the one you got, not the one you want. And so it's all connected, you
Hmm.
see? And so they
Wait, say
get,
that line. I'm sorry to interrupt. You have to say that line one more time, Stephen.
yeah, you parent the
Parent
one
the
you
one.
got, not the one you want.
Mm.
And so you end up a lot of the time trying to shape them back to your projection of what you think they need. It's not what the kid needs. I learned this the hard way every day. And so they get attached to I call it the picture on the box. So their
Mm-hmm.
imagination, which has magi in the middle, is a magic. It's a dreamer. This is I call it the imagination, like your board, your magic board, and then you visualize something. And I think that's part of our equipment to do that because we have a seed of something we want it, and so that allows us to build kind of like a tower or something or an apparatus of that, and that builds and builds over time. And so that allows us to framework it, to create it. But if you're going to be a good gardener, you adjust yourself to how nature takes it. That's the divine mother.
Mm.
You see, you've got to adjust yourself. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
quite grow the way the picture said. This happened, this happened. So we have to steer course.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've got a big desire for something and it becomes a dream and you hold it so strong, and having a kid is pretty much about as strong as it gets, then you'll hold that very, very strong. That creates tension. It could block flow. It could create indigestion. It could create stomach issues. There's all kinds of things come from it.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to answer your question here, like there's a positive side of like, yeah, we scaffold our dreams. We have an imagination board that we can focus on, visualize,
Mm-hmm.
communicate, tell the universe. That's pretty cool. But then they don't happen. And this is a hard part. And in the case of the child, then that tower collapses. So
Mm-hmm.
now we have devastation. Now it sounds horrendous, but in those moments, we have to turn, I think, to mythology a little bit. But the phoenix rises again, and this is
Mm-hmm.
a big message I want to bring today is that we honor the pain, we honor the loss, the failure of your company, the job you got fired from, all those things. But you know what? You stick that in the ground, you turn it over, and there's this mechanism where the phoenix rises, and you turn your pain into passion. You go and you foster, you go and take care of kids, you go and mentor young women in high school, whatever they need.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
And this is part of the
Yeah.
human
Yeah.
story, I think, and resilience.
Yeah.
And so there's this really intense pattern, but there's something in us that when it comes down, it wants to start rebuilding. Maybe I'll
Mm-hmm.
stop there.
Mm-hmm. It's
It's
true.
almost like I have this visual, and I've only lived inside of my life, my souls, but for me personally, I've had many, so much vision, but it's always been kind of being back on the islands and working, with uh, adults, kids, young people moving into their fullness, right? That's been kind of a dream of mine. And it's funny because as we, just to be vulnerable on here, like as Karen and I have taken our steps, and she cares about animals, she cares about horses and kids with disabilities. And, here we are running a for-profit company. And, but it's funny. I think it's something that I just want to touch on about this is, as you're saying, I mean, the season, I like the analogy of growing something because it takes on different forms, and it takes it's not all at once often. And that it's you can't buy I when I went through one of my darkest nights of the soul, I had a horrific experience where I realized I was an alcoholic, and I had who I thought was love of my life walk out on me. You both know the story, but it was very traumatic. This has been in the past 5 years, 10 years, I guess. Very, very traumatic experience. And I was very confused because this was the love of my life, and this is who I was supposed to marry. And, as time went on, I realized like she had a very different vision for life than I did. And I was willing to compromise to have her, because that was part of my vision, is to having that spouse and that partner. And, allowing room to breathe and allowing, okay, like, I will not be attached. Jenny's smiling because she carried me through a lot of that really dark stuff. And I think I look back now and I'm like, the steps that I took, the timing is always
Mhm.
allowing, not forcing something to happen prematurely, right?
Yeah.
If you plant
You don't
something
force
and you,
timing, and this is
that's
important for
right.
anybody who has dreams and things coming. There's always an intersection between the time has come. You know that
Mm,
phrase, "We are the ones we've been waiting for?" And
yeah,
so your idea seems to maturate, the seed seems to sprout as if it's connected somehow to all of life, hint, hint. And so it's always, there's a timing aspect to it. And it gets
totally.
stronger the closer you get to the stars aligning, the more potent the desire is. That's how I see it.
And sometimes we see things breaking down,
Correct. We
right?
mustn't forget
To
the
prepare
bitter.
us,
Yeah, I always
toiling
say
the
Mother
soil.
Nature, yeah, Mother Nature does it always in two qualities. And so we mustn't forget the bitter. So she'll also destroy and crush and burn and pull all that away for new growth. And
That's
so
right.
that might be your part to play. So I want to say a strong message to people is honor your pain, yes, but begin to see it through new eyes,
Hmm.
and that phoenix will rise again, and you'll be able to turn the pain of your life into, heck, content, a course, or whatever. Turn it into something,
Right.
a
Right.
song.
Yeah.
I I mean, my own experience of this is quite incredible to see that, and I really believe that all of us, when we look back as we get older and we have more and more experiences, we keep looking back and saying, "Oh, I needed that experience. I needed to have that. I
Mhm.
needed to
Mhm.
work there. I
Yep.
needed to do this. I needed to partner with this person," because every single thing is an opportunity and a
Yes.
part of your
Mm.
journey to get you to where you're going, especially if you have a big dream. I've had big dreams my entire life, and I started when I was very young in college, knowing that I wanted retreats in some way, land and retreat. And it was a dream, and then I just forgot about it for a long time because I was too busy trying to make it in the world and survive. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's fun, but when is that gonna happen?" And I don't think about it. And then you but the seed was planted,
Mhm.
and I had so many varying experiences that all led me to right where I am now, to building a
Mhm.
temple on my land, to having my own land, to being able to now have retreats on my property, not someone else's property, not in a building, in a yoga studio, but I needed all of those. So there
Yeah.
was nothing that was out of place or out of line.
Mhm.
But
Jenny, would you
yeah,
we have to trust, yes. Would you, whatever piece of of your story you wanna share, I mean, that's at a high level that you just mentioned,
yeah,
but, I've had the joy of watching you from, you had a company, with like, you were bringing,
that was part of it.
Cornerstone. Like,
Mhm.
if whatever you wanna share, but, like, to just help people understand real tangible, like, and I look at your life now and I'm like, I've seen it blossom. I've seen your dream be fulfilled to where, I mean, honestly, it feels fast, but you've gone through it. You and your husband have walked through
Mhm.
every step, and, I'm sure there were times when you were on, the land previously, you were like, "Well, this isn't, exactly what we thought," but, whatever you wanna share, I think it'd be good for the listeners to hear some of the detail. It's very
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah, so, like I said, I was just out of college or right I had a pen pal, really close friend of mine that we met when I was in Australia for school. We just wrote letters to each other back before, people emailed and all the things, and there was no FaceTime or cell phones. But aging
Showing
myself,
your
but,
age.
it's
Yeah.
okay. I'm 50 and proud of it.
Yes, you are. It's a wonderful age.
So I would send her literally, I would mail her in the snail mail, like, pictures of retreat places, like, from magazines. I'd rip out magazines and say, "Look at this, isn't this cool?" And then, like I said, forgot about it for a really long time, but I was very drawn to yoga, and then, um, when we had a yoga studio because I wanted my own space. That happened. I wanted my own space, had a yoga studio. And then it felt like I was too confined. It wasn't big enough. I wanted retreats. I needed space. And we had this vision. I had this vision. My husband's amazing, amazing. And he flows with me and goes with me and sees it with me and supports me in every way. I'm so very blessed and grateful.
He is a grounding, lovely grounding force.
Very ground. I need
Amazing.
him so
Yes.
desperately because
Yes.
I can be very ungrounded at times.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he definitely grounds me. And I really wanted more space. And we came from very humble beginnings. Neither of us have a family who could support us. Not that we want that, but we have no backup plan.
Mhm.
Like we don't have
Right.
anyone to fuel our lives in that way or help us in that way. And so, we still had student loans and all the things, but I had this vision of wanting a retreat space. And we lived in Austin and we didn't want to be in the city anymore. And so we started visualizing, drawing it out
Mhm.
like, oh, what if and just no boundaries. What if we had this and what if we had that? And we would just draw it out. And then synchronicity happened and it was our time. Divine Mother got us in connection with this wonderful soul, John Hurt, and I'm going to give him a plug. He's incredible, incredible soul. Had a bunch of acres, over 100 acres in Wimberley, 45 minutes outside of Texas, outside of Austin, in the hill country. And it's a very beautiful story that would take too long to say all the details, but we met and only met to see someone who had land, like no idea about anything, like literally thought I'd meet him and never see him again. Well, ended up that he had this beautiful property and didn't have anything to do with, didn't know what to do with it, and invited us to
Mm.
do something. And so then we created a Ruby Retreats. And then after that, we were there for 6 years, tending the land, having beautiful retreats, hosting them, all the things. And I was feeling like it was time to move on. Like, okay, I don't have autonomy, and Stephen knows this so well because I'm like, I need autonomy. I need to be able to
Mhm.
build a temple. I really wanted to build a temple. Couldn't build a temple on that land. It's not my land. And so
Mhm.
we found this beautiful land in Northern California. And because we lived in a tiny house, 300 square foot, just my husband and I and our dog, 300
And a
square
nice
foot.
lanai. Nice
Yeah.
lanai.
Nice, beautiful lanai and beautiful area, but very small quarters for 6 years. We were able to save money to become debt free and save money to buy property. But if
Hmm.
we would have been closed off from that, that wouldn't have happened. Because if I
Mhm.
would have said, well, I want my own and da da da, and I don't want it to look like this, I trusted. And then
Mhm.
so we have this property, and now we've been gifted, which I could just burst into tears thinking about, a beautiful gift for being able to build a temple. We've been
Mhm.
gifted. We've got an incredible donation to be able to build a temple. And this temple is
Mm.
not for me. It's for everyone. It's for
Mhm.
everyone to come to our
Yeah.
healing sanctuary to receive healing in any way that they need.
Mhm. Wow, 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 wow. I mean, hearing it, I've lived intimately, watching this whole story unfold as Stephen has. And I know Stephen, both of us are probably just like this. It's just the most beautiful thing to watch a sister and a brother go through this journey. And you've been so I've watched you, and Jenny, I haven't said this often, but I watched you at each step of the road. You carried gratefulness. You didn't, I never felt a push or a rush by you. You're like, well, this is what the divine has given us. This is what's supposed to happen. And we take it. And then when it's your time's done, when the plant has gotten this far, it needs to now sprout. Now it's time to do this. And I think the word stewarding your dream, right? You've stewarded and
Right.
honored the dream. You never let go of the vision, but you didn't force it. You didn't rush it. And you received the gifts from the universe each step of the way that as you know, I mean, you guys are city people. Initially, you guys came from the city, New York, Pittsburgh, and look at you both now. You had that was 6 years of training ground on the land to now know how to. I mean, I see that man. I see Dave out there on that land and we're over, and I mean, they are like. I mean, you've got it. You've got it together out there. You're growing and learning. The reason I wanted you to share this is just so profound to watch because I think we see people who have hit success, right? Like I have friends that are very successful in their line of work or whatever. And you're like, man, and you're just like, you feel a little green with them. You're like, how did they get there? Or how did this happen? Or how did they get that partner? And how did they have that success? It's not overnight, right? They stewarded in the small things. And to the point of being unattached to the outcome, which I think you have walked, and I know you personally. You've if that's not it, then it's something else, right? So thank you for sharing that. I know it's good for people to hear,
One
the
last
story.
point, and I want Stephen to go, but one last point I just want to say, because it's really, I think, the icing on the cake is when we pulled out that old drawing that we
Mhm.
did probably now, I don't know, well over a decade ago. It is this property. We drew it.
Of course. Yep.
So, Stephen.
Yeah, it's astonishing when you see this is gratitude, which is the power to see the gifts. And that's important part of this cycle here. I said about Phoenix rising and gratitude, but it's important for people to understand that when these dreams come, you have pretty wide scope. In Jenny's case, she might be teacher, healer, intuitive channel. There's all these kind of things that we could say she is. She has those gifts, but you have a pretty wide scope, in my opinion, in terms of how you manifest them. But
Mhm.
what's important is, and I'm going to say this very deliberately, when you make a wish upon a star, the star is the higher self. When you make a
Mm.
wish upon that, then you find out who you are. I'm being a little silly, but essentially you get this mechanism in the universe, the ether, God's spirit, whatever you want to call it, something comes back and seems to meet you there. So we can
Mm.
keep, this is just coming to me in a moment, keep dreams alive. We can keep the flame burning. And so Jenny is an expert, I would say, in keeping dreams alive and stoking that fire. So it's there, but there's a mechanism here that responds to it. If you give it time, if you turn the fire and put in coals and make the effort and keep going, there's a mechanism it seems to come to you. The hardest
Mhm.
part is always like, is it aligned enough? And sometimes the fire fizzles out and it sucks. But you can keep the dream alive or it morphs into something new.
Right. Mhm.
And that wish you can make, which is prayer, is the imagination, the dream, and keeping your dreams alive and the dreamer alive in you. And that can go out, that fire.
Mhm.
And if you keep
Yeah.
tending to it, there's a mechanism that responds and things come back and there's a rearrangement of things. It can happen quick, it can take years. It's tricky because you have to just trust it.
Mhm.
But if you know deeply inside that it makes you feel alive and it lights you up and you feel expansive and connected, then that's a big one. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of hope in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
And I think the other piece to this, I'm just thinking of all the many people and stories I hear in my own life. But I think one of the things that's come up for me recently, and it's had me just start thinking about my, we're living our dream. I'll just say that. I mean, no, we're not. We don't own some big glorious property yet. We have a big glorious property that we have been privileged to live on for a while, and just like you, like I feel like it's training grounds for us. But I think one of the things that I've noticed is, in our journey here to Hawaii first and foremost, like, we were both in the thick of our corporate careers and they weren't great, right? There was a lot of pain attached to both of our careers at different points. And, one of the things that I really wanted to move back here. And I think my wife wasn't ready. Right. And I was like, well, what do I do with that? Like, this is my dream and my vision. And yeah, she loved the island. She used to live here as well. But like, that's really where I want to be. And if she just wants to live in this like corporate everyday life, like that's probably not for me. And, that's something I think important too, is that when you're choosing your mate or you're choosing, whoever you want to partner with in life, I had to choose, like, will I marry her even though, right? And luckily for us, it all kind of started aligning before we got married and decided to spend the rest of our lives together. But we did, and things started unlocking and opening, and her realization and my realization started aligning. And all of a sudden, with that, there was momentum behind it, right? The more we released, the more things were happening for us. And it was miraculous. As Jenny and Stephen know, like how we arrived here, right as we were getting married, someone offered us to live in a insanely gorgeous property in Maui for like a year for free. And that's a dream, right? That's for anybody. I mean, the islands are very expensive. And so, what's interesting though is since I've been here, I want to touch on this for a minute because I have, different friends who are very, uh, people watch you when you take a step that's risk. I want to talk about risk for a minute in relation to dreams
Mm.
because, choices in general can be risky.
Mm.
Good or bad, right? Choices towards something, choices not to do something. It's all a risk. I mean, we like to think that taking the step's a risk. It's also a risk to not take a step when it's, given to you. But, we've taken the step out here and, it's not all perfectly aligned. I mean, in some ways I feel like it has, but, we're still building and still growing and still learning. And I've had people reach out to me on social media and friends, acquaintances, and clearly they're just watching our journey and they're trying to find, this is so sad, they're trying to find fault in this decision we made. And it's so funny because I'm like, this has nothing to do with your life, right? Just like being a gay woman, everybody wants to offer their opinions about my gayness. It's like so cute that people have these thoughts. But it's like, we're just living our life. We've not told everybody else they should move to Hawaii and quit their corporate jobs and start a company and hope it all works out. Like that's not everybody's journey, right? That's probably not most people's journey, but that's our journey. And we've lived this and we have much bigger vision out here. And so I've had some people reaching out and, really, saying some negative things like, oh, well, it's not all great there. I know you're far from family now and the traffic and, sending these crazy memes. And I'm just like, what is this? And then another friend's like, okay, so you have the house until this long, but like, what happens then? Can you afford a house out there? And I want to talk about this because at first I was kind of like offended, right? Like, what are these people even my friends? And I started going deeper. Like, what is this? Because I'm curious. I'm a curious little soul. What does this mean? Why do people, why are they spending time trying to find fault in Karen's fulfilling of our dream? And I know, Jenny, you're on the cusp of saying something. Let me just say this real quick, and then I'd love for you guys just to get after this. But what I'm starting to recognize is, I know for the fact one of the people that have reached out about this is their dream. Not exactly, but their dream is to move out here and live this life. And I know many people who have a similar dream to do something that feels risky, but they want to wait until everything is perfect before they make the leap. And, I have other friends who have, had different jobs and gone through different things, and they have a dream, but they want to wait till everything lines up perfectly. And the reality is, for me, at least in my own personal experiences, things are not going to always be perfect. Like, things don't always line up. And I think that's the relationship that we have with this cosmic energy of trusting. And we do take steps in the Christian faith. You talk a lot about like, oh, you take a step and then things open up and the faith, your faith is what unlocks it. Right. And I actually believe that. I think sometimes, not always. And that's where being in tune and being centered. So I just wanted to put that out there because Jenny, I know you had something on the tip of your tongue. I could see it.
I do. And so does Stephen. Go ahead, Stephen.
Okay. Whoever.
Oh boy. Okay, I'll say one thing. The ego, which is a mental construct, and our defenses, we reflect each other. We see parts of ourselves we don't want to see in other people's decisions. Let's just imagine someone's stifled, restricted, micromanaged, and now we see someone taking a risk and getting it. The ego's response is to shut down and negate that choice because it'll mirror back to them to say, hey, you stay safe, buddy. You'll be all right.
Exactly.
And so it'll mirror it back immediately. So if you can, first of all,
So projection.
pull it all apart and go, they're saying that to themselves backwards. And so basically saying, what comes to me is you stay safe, buddy, right here. And then, but what the ego can't, once it thinks that, the person can't quite contain it, they reflect it off of you, so they have to spit it back to you. And it's about you, but actually that's just how the ego works.
It's not about us. Right.
It's not about us at all. So, but
Yeah.
it'll just, I would say, a protection mechanism to keep them trapped in there. And we actually cage ourselves in this mechanism. I just want to say one personal thing, you guys. I'm a guy who worked in finance and accounting, oil and gas, and retired at age 32 when cashed in all his chips to open a yoga studio. Like, I realized I have a high tolerance for risk. and, and so I just walked away and did it. And so there was this moment where I was resigning from the company. They were like, I moved to Austin. There was some crummy retail company with golf or something. It was the really terrible company. I won't say they're bankrupt now. Anyway, I remember you give this thing where you say, announcements, please. And they all gather around. Stephen is resigning. And so they thought I must have got a better finance job. And I said, to all these people, I said, yeah, I'm opening a yoga studio. And
Yes.
bless their hearts, it was like I shocked their entire reality.
Right.
Bless them. They were nice people, don't get me wrong. But it was this
Yeah.
amazing moment where people just went into this shock. Somebody walked up and goes, you know what? That's badass, well done.
Yeah.
People that really respected it. Some people were really
Mhm.
jolted by it. Some people were annoyed
Right.
by it. It's amazing. But we say in the teaching that the circumstance is neutral in a way. Moving to Hawaii is neutral. The reaction's personal. So when you see 30 people
Oh.
receive the information about my choice at the same time and they react differently, then it's clearly not about you.
Mhm.
It's what's inside of them.
Right.
Oh,
Mm.
so exactly perfectly said. And that is exactly the reflection, right? In that projection. And so we have to remember that it is never about us when somebody
Mhm.
is whatever they're doing, however they're
Mhm.
acting is coming from their own direct
Right.
consciousness. And yes, risk. Oh my goodness. If I mean, I could share a lot of that about me because we, just up and left I left my hometown to move to Texas with nothing, no jobs, no one, no, we didn't have
Mhm.
jobs. We didn't know anybody. We're like, nope, we got to go. Risk, buying a yoga studio, risk. We can name all the risks in my life. But to me, that's what it's about. Personally, to me, I'm here to keep pushing the boundaries for myself, to keep testing the waters, risk. I love it because what else to me, this is my personal, like, what else am I going to do? Like, why
Mhm.
not? I have this life. It's very temporary, even though it can feel long. It isn't really long in the scheme of our whole long journey of the soul that is infinite. This is just like a blink of an eye. 80, 90, maybe if we're lucky, blessed 100 years on this planet. That's
Mhm.
nothing. That's
Right.
nothing.
Right.
So why not just try it all, do it all? What's the worst that happens? And yes, the people love to be naysayers and say, oh, but what if, they're just talking from their fear.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that person. I know we only have probably 10 minutes left here, but what about that person who is watching, we'll say my journey over here, our journey, and I know, they have the same desire and they're trying to, I think in some ways, some people are looking at ours like as the testimony or failure is how they'll make their decision, right? You're kind of watching someone else as your blueprint, which that's a whole thing in and of itself. But for someone who does want to take a step and isn't sure, how do they know when? Let's go there. How would someone know if they have a dream, how to know when to start attempting to take steps towards the fulfillment of that?
This is
Or does
actually a
it,
big,
or do you not take steps? You
yeah.
just let it,
And
does
this
it
is,
come to
yeah.
you and you just say yes? Sorry.
Sorry, Nikki. This is actually a big reason why people come to us at Wisdom Pathways. So again, remember, I'm going to say it again, the ego or life, Mother Nature, I should say, gives us sweet and bitter. She gives us dark and light. And
Mhm.
everyone says, well, the time must be when your heart opens and the light comes down and shines. And actually, I find for most people, that's not the case. There's a very
Mm.
simple answer here I see. They feel stuck. They feel lost. They
Mhm.
feel heavy. They feel a little empty or dead inside. When someone comes to tell me that, I start smiling. I'm like, you've come to the right place. Congratulations. That means your soul is trying
Yeah.
to pull you off somewhere else.
Yeah.
We just got to
Mm.
unpack all the guards and shields and all the other parts and let's see what is. And that's a big part of my method as a medium. And so it often comes as like this, like it was fine 2 years ago, but now I go to work and I dread it, or it's heavy, or I just lack something. So we call this a dead end. It's like an end of a
Mm.
road. They come and there's nothing there. So we got to turn and
And
go
your
get
and your
something.
soul's talking to you. Your
Yes.
soul's
Yeah, but
speaking to you
all
through
you
this.
get is a magnetic pull that sucks the
Mhm.
life out of you. Soul sucking, soul crushing. They'll say
Mhm.
various words like that. But nearly always when I get that, they're being prompted for a change, but all you get is a stuck feeling and a heavy kind of
Mm.
limbo that you don't know what it is. I find that there's tons of people that come.
So how do you navigate that?
Well, I could say you come to wisdom pathways, but um, but first of all, is a recognition of the truth that what you have now is not for you.
Yeah.
Maybe it never was. Going back to your
Okay.
corporate thing earlier, I find a lot of people try to climb the ladder and then realize there's nothing at the top, as the
Oh,
saying
yeah.
goes. And then they're actually just pumping like a false self-esteem. And so all of that just runs out of juice in the end. And so there's
Mm.
this recognition, like, you know what, it's not for me.
Mhm.
And there's these points in life called transitions where these stories just seem to split and open, and they're really important to take advantage of, like the midlife crisis, but not it's a crisis just means turning point, and transition is a reorientation.
Mhm.
So there's a timing of it that just people realize, no, this is not it. And it gets stronger. We mentioned this in the previous episode. It gets stronger as the years go on. And then something just seems
Mhm.
to split. So that's a big reason why people come. Some people do get the hallelujah moment where all of a sudden it just opens on meditation retreat. But they usually need some condition to get there. A retreat, a drum circle. They're at something and they're opening a great conversation, and then it opens. Something has to open the chamber.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Or sometimes it gets so, yeah, I mean, to your point of it gets so bad. I'm thinking of, you know, someone I know who it got so bad that they became desperate to, like, it's almost like your soul's been knocking, like you have this inner wisdom, as we
Mm-hmm.
all talk about, and it's been like, "Hey, hey, hey, hey," like
Yeah.
we talk about sometimes my wife always says things come in threes for her,
Yeah.
and like for me, like, I know that I was in several jobs far too long, and it was like I was getting the nudge. Every time I would turn
Yeah.
over a job, like, "Hey, hey, it's time to get out." But
Yeah.
you push that off. You don't
Yeah. It's
listen
hard.
to your inner wisdom, and
Mm-hmm.
so you just keep going around until finally you're like, "Wait a minute." And for me, I always push to the very edge of where things really break and you're just like, "Okay,
Yeah.
now I can actually pay
Me too,
attention."
Nikki. Me
And
too. And
then
yeah.
the opportunity, I think in those places, to your point, sometimes when it's breaking down, and I think I hear a lot of people saying this, it's beautiful. They talk about like they're in the dark night of the soul. Like I have a friend in Europe right now who's, in film production, and she's going through a ton physically, emotionally, like all kinds of stuff. And she's like, "But it's okay. I'm not worried. This is a good sign that something's about to bust open for me." And I was like, "Come on." And I think people are starting to register that. Like if it's getting really bad, that means something's coming, and I just have to stay the course and take it a step and a day at a time, right? And go inside.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm sorry, Jenny, a passion point for me.
Go ahead.
Um,
Mhm.
there's one other aspect of this I feel like it's important to bring up. It keeps pinging me, and it's a kind of a heavier one. But yes, there's fears and they hold you back, but they take the blame for a lot of things. Fears keep you safe for sure. But I want
Mm.
to bring up repression. And this is
Ooh.
important because I said about a child coming pre-packaged and they just want to come out and play in the world and they get repressed. And that could be parents, it could be the school system. I have a lot to say about the education system today. There's a lot of repression of their dreams,
Yeah.
and that
Mm.
does real damage. I'm saying it
From
somewhat
early,
passionately.
early age,
Yeah,
right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying it
Oh,
passionately as a Scotsman because we grew up in British system, and it does real damage. With this, you don't step beyond your station. That's what they say where I come from. I won't get too in that rabbit hole, but the point is that there's something mechanism that says I'm not enough, and fear gets the blame, but often it's that
Mm.
I find that's truly at the bottom. I was speaking, think about the example you gave in the beginning of someone who I don't have a dream.
Mhm.
I'm not saying they were repressed, maybe, maybe not, but
Right.
by
But
golly,
very likely.
very
Mhm.
likely it happens. And that's real damage of abuse of children in different ways and
Mhm.
dysfunctional homes. There's a real mess to clean up there. But they say they're scared. I had someone recently where they say, well, I'm scared of this and this and this. But you know what? When it came down to it and the repression, I had to break it open like a rock in the chakra, and you open it up, and those fears dissolved in seconds.
mhm.
Wow.
I'm not
And would you
enough.
say
I'm not worthy.
right.
Yeah, it's a big
Would you
one.
say too on that topic, I think I brought this up on another point, but I had a girl that I worked with. I used to run a anti-human trafficking
organization, and we helped a lot of girls who were coming out of some pretty horrific abusive situations, right? Exploitation. And one of the girls, was just 18 at the time, and basically her entire childhood, she didn't really have choice. And so I would spend a lot of time with her. And I think, I might have mentioned this. If not, I'll say it again, but she started dressing like me. She
Yeah.
started having my interests. And it was really kind of like, I didn't know. I mean, I was only 25 at the time, and I was like mentoring her into adulthood. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this. It's kind of, I knew it wasn't a healthy thing for her, but I didn't know kind of how to help direct her. But I think what I've realized, and I think this applies to other people too, is sometimes people have never allowed themselves, never spent time to get to know their own identity, right?
Mm.
And so if you don't know your own identity, you latch onto someone else's identity or dream or something. But I think this is the case of, for the person who may have been repressed for whatever reason, however it happened, or when it, how long it's been going, that they're just like, I don't really have a dream. I don't even know where to start. It's maybe the journey. And Wisdom Pathways, wisdompathways.life, if you want to go. Both Jenny and Stephen work with people through a full-blown immersion, that this is really helpful for kind of unlocking things, basically mirroring your soul reports that they offer. But, it's powerful because it helps you to take the steps to learn yourself. Who am I?
Yeah.
What is my soul doing and saying? Why am I here? And there's nothing you can chat GPT or Google to find that out. I mean, that is something that you
No,
have
it's
to
very
go
deep,
within to
Nikki.
find.
It's very deep. And you gotta also say, like, find yourself. And I hear you, but for a lot of people, that self, the existential identity they had was devastated. you know?
Right.
And so
Right.
the soul is, the Bhagavad Gita says, your true self cannot be harmed and it is eternal. And so you can go and find it, but it takes a certain kind of digging. It's like, I call it cave
Mm,
diving. And so you have to go in
okay.
there and go through that. But I get people where it's like I said to someone, that I have a treasure within me. I am talented, some basic statement, and they just can't say it. And they're like a career professional. I'm
Mm,
like, hold on a second.
wow.
You would
Wow.
say it to your next door neighbor, right? You would say it to me, you say it to your kid, and like, and they just, and that's what repression does. But you're going into a cave,
Wow.
folks. So believe me, the diamond is there, the jewel is there, but you got to split that rock open, and that's the
Mm,
deep work, And it's
yeah.
bloody hard, but rewarding.
Worth doing.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Amen. So I don't give up hope. It's there. It's there in every soul. I believe you incarnate with it, and we or many other people can help you find it. So don't give up on that dreams. You might have to hammer and chisel, but it's there.
Absolutely. I'm a living testimony of that. Jenny, any final things? And, I want to kind of bring us to summation here as we're ending our episode today.
I I love the stories of people taking risks, trusting their passion, trusting their journey. And I really feel that it's really important to dream, to use your
Mm-hmm.
imagination, to open up to all possibilities, and please know that you are worthy. You
Mm,
are worthy. Every
yeah,
single soul is worthy. We're
Hmm.
all one
absolutely.
energy. And
Right.
there isn't anyone on this planet or in this universe who isn't worthy, because
Right.
we are children of the light.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. And, I want to just say that we do carry wisdom and expertise for many, many years, Stephen and Jenny both alike. But, if you're in a process of really wanting to uncover and understand, learn yourself, we're here, Jenny and Stephen, wisdompathways.life. And again, this platform is not to promote, to earn money. In fact, you'll find out all about gift economy if you go to the website, wisdompathways.life. But if you do want help processing through whether you're in the season of, I don't know my dreams. This is like, if there's something sparking in you today, whereas we're bringing up some of these scenarios and you're like, "Ooh, that feels like me. And I don't know where to go. I don't know how to begin." Obviously, we can't, within an hour, a little bit over an hour, we can't, break down your entire journey. But through sessions with Stephen, through sessions with Jenny, through a full blown immersion, it's a 4 session across 2 weeks process you go through. It's very impactful. And I know that they'd be happy to help you kind of process through that, right? And for those who have a dream and you're very frustrated at where you are right now and that it hasn't happened yet, or know if that dream is a reality or if that's what your soul's telling you, same for you. Like if you want help walking through some of that, if you have a partner that you feel like is in the way of that, like how do you navigate that? How do you navigate a dream that you don't have the funds for yet? We understand, and we've all lived the same journey, that we understand that it's not sometimes immediate, sometimes it is, but we need each other as we go through these processes. I'm a big external processor. It's why we're doing a podcast, one of the reasons. And it's helpful to lean on a friend or an expert who's been working with people for many years. So please jump on that website, find the resources. There's also self-guided meditation courses. There's a whole pilgrimage that Stephen and Jenny have put together. And again, I'm just saying this because we want everyone to feel alive and free and hopeful on their path as they take their next steps. So with further ado, we love you each. Thanks for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be having some mini-sodes popping up at some point that are going to be a little shorter in between these longer episodes, where we'll be seeking wisdom from spiritual guidance. So everyone, please be centered, and we love you. And
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you are leaving feeling more peace, clarity, and light as you navigate your journey forward. While there's no promotional purpose behind our podcast, we understand that things can arise that may be helpful to process or work through. Jenny and Stephen are co-founders of Wisdom Pathways, a sacred place of personal transformation. They offer soul mediumship, somatic healing, and spiritual resources for all walks of life. If you feel lost or stuck, are in transition, or awakening to something more, visit wisdompathways.life, or you can email any one of us at connect@wisdompathways.life. Tune in again this time next week if you'd like, and as always, share with a friend who might benefit as well. Peace and love.